Hello and welcome to episode 4 of this year in review series where we speak about 22 things that happened during 2022 for each of the last 22 days of the year. One of the biggest reasons why we make this year in review series or why you want to listen to them is to know what really happened during the year. What were the events? Who were the personalities involved? What did the world end up doing? And of course, we also want to look forward to the next year so that we can take our lessons from the previous year into the next year along with us. If that is the objective, then the question is, what's the best way to get to that? And the answer clearly lies in one word, which is Google. Luckily for us, Google publishes a year in review report at the end of each year. Google compiles all of this history of the searches happening throughout the world and publishes it on its website. Of course, I will share the link with you to this report, which is called Year in Search. So the question that comes to mind is, if we can all see it officially on the Google handle, on the Google website, then why should we watch this video? You will get your answers to that, but let me tell you that apart from the information that is already available on Google about the year in search, there are some insights about why those searches are happening, what is happening under the hood, at least from my perspective, but it will help you open your mind and think about some of the underlying trends that are shaping the data points as we see them. In order to understand this report and the results for 22, we cannot look at this data point in isolation. What I always believe while you're looking at any data point is to see how this compares to the previous year's data points or comparable data points. So what we will do in this case, since we are talking about 22, is look at what happened in the years 18, 19, 20 and 21. So that's 4 years of history with us. We will be better able to appreciate why the world was doing what it was doing in 22. So let's start with a little bit of history. In 2018, we had a mega event which was the FIFA World Cup, and it should come as no surprise that it was the number one search term in 2018 on Google across the world. In 2019, three of the top five search terms had one thing in common with 2018, which was that they were all related to sporting events. So in 2019, people were looking at India versus South Africa, Bangladesh versus India, and Copa America. Again, terms related to either cricket or football. So as you can see from the history of searching in 2018 and 19, which were pre-pandemic years, people were more interested in sporting events. What happened in 2020 should not be too difficult to guess. Of course, it was the year of the pandemic, so coronavirus by far was the number one search term on the internet. One of the other top search terms in 2020, which is related to the coronavirus, was Zoom, because that was the year when it became de facto the term that people used to denote the action of video calling somebody or doing an online meeting or attending to office work. So no doubt it was right up there. In fact, I remember in my year in review 2020, I wrote a 20-part series and one of the episodes was a very fun take on Zoom. I'm sure if you read it today, you'll laugh your hearts out. So I'll share the link with you and you can enjoy a laugh or two and reminisce about the Zoom times that we had. So those are the top two terms in 2020, and the third term, as you can extrapolate from the trends of 2018 and 19, were all relating to sporting events. This was the IPL. When people were locked inside in the pandemic, they needed a relief. The IPL was still held despite the pandemic, and that became one of the biggest trending searches, not just in India, but this is worldwide. 2021 was far more clear cut. All the top 5 searches were related to sporting events, some of them to cricket, one of them was relating to NBA, and the last one was relating to Euro 21. If we trace the history of this year in search reports for all these 4 years, we find one thing in common, which is the fact that sporting events always make it to the top. It only took a year like 2020 when the coronavirus of everything else had to come in and displace a sporting event from the top of the list. Now let's cut to 2022. There are in fact three things in this year which have made the top 5 list which are not sporting events. The first one is the passing of Queen Elizabeth. So that definitely made it to the top 5 because it was a massively searched event, not just in UK but worldwide as well. The second thing which made the biggest headlines, which probably might be your guess, is Ukraine. Surprise, that's not number one yet, even though it was a war of such mammoth proportions that it impacted everybody across the world. The world kept thinking about the possibilities of a nuclear war, a World War III, and whatnot. In fact, one of the words of the year, which we did briefly mention in our earlier episode, was permacrisis, when the world was in a state of permanent crisis, which kind of is a segue into the number one result of the year, which is a word game called Wordle. Now, of all things, when all the possible games and advanced games with multimedia graphics, immersive reality, etc., are available today, a simple word game with extremely simplistic and intuitive user interface and graphics made it to the top of the list. And the concept was also not path breaking. You can, of course, Google what Wordle is and go and check out the game on the New York Times website, and you will see that it's not a very complex game. It's a fairly simple game, very similar to the kind of games that we've already played. But what it goes to show is that people needed a break, people needed a relief from the perma crisis, from the war, from everything else that was going on, and they needed some novelty in that relief. And Wordle just provided that. And that's the nature of social media, that's the nature of the internet. When people see that something is going viral, others are watching it, everybody and their neighbor is playing Wordle, then why should I be left out? The FOMO, or the fear of missing out, kind of kicks in, and the viral forces just go unfettered. And that is exactly what happened to Wordle. Of course, I find word games very fascinating. There are many more dimensions and nuances to this, which I might want to cover in a separate episode, which will be coming up next. One of the things you might be wondering is, why is it that sporting events have risen to the top? Is it that people have abandoned everything else and have been only interested in sports for the last 4 or 5 years? Certainly, that's not the case, right? The volume of activity on the internet is certainly not driven by sports alone. But one of the things that, at least when I look back at my own user behavior on Google and on the internet over the last few years, I have significantly increased my consumption of sports news feed by switching from sports specific websites into Google, because they do an absolutely brilliant job of compiling all the data, all the statistics, even videos, related images, the past history by player, by team, by tournament. Everything is available in a single snapshot. As a result, people have stopped going directly to the sporting websites. People have directly started typing the search query inside of Google whenever two teams are playing the favorite sport. As you will see, a lot of the search results over the last few years have been the names of two teams who are competing with each other in the field of cricket. India versus South Africa, India versus England, Bangladesh versus India, and so on and so forth. So that is how the search results show a tremendous spike. And India being the second most populous country in the world, and where cricket is already a religion, it is no surprise that these terms have risen to the top. There is not much more that needs to be looked into or interpreted. When you look at some of these search results, what needs interpretation are some of the other things which have come in and managed to displace these cricketing search terms. And in that context, Wordle, of course, is very, very significant from the perspective of 2022. But that is just one part of the story. As you would see on the year in search report on Google, they compile the results not just by the most searched terms, they also compile the results by category. And these categories, depending on the geography that you're looking at, could mean most searched people, most searched celebrities, most searched events, most searched venues. If you look at the common trend across all of these are all nouns, names of people, thing, object, places. However, in 2022, Google did a very interesting thing. Apart from understanding what are the nouns that were in prominence, as in the people, places, things, events, Google also tried to figure out what is it that people want to do. And this is presented in the form of a video, which you will also find on their website and, of course, on YouTube. Google has, in its own wisdom, culled out certain insights and compiled them together in the form of a very interesting story. The central theme of this story can be found in this phrase, "Can I change?" And that is the starting point for many of the searches that were prominent in the last year. So things like, can I change myself? Can I change my life? Can I change my career? Can I change my outlook? Can I change my style? So these are some of the top 5 things that people were searching for under the category of "Can I change?" And they've kind of woven this into a nice little story. You can watch the video. I'm sure you will enjoy it. But what we will do in an upcoming episode is try and uncover why is it that people are looking for this kind of change, and what is it that people want to do in order to operationalize this change. How does this relate to what the events that we have seen over the last couple of years, particularly during the pandemic and the post-pandemic as we step into the new normal. So that is what we will do in the next two episodes. The first one will be around Wordle and a deep dive into the fascinating area of playing games, and not just playing games, but also developing games. There will be some surprises there for you, but let me not give you any more spoiler alerts. And the second episode following that one will be around understanding what is it that people want to do. So there'll be a noun section and then there will be a verb section. In the meantime, you already know what is to be done. The links are there in the description. Before you go, you already know that you need to like, subscribe, share, and do add your comments on what is it that you were searching for in the previous year and what is it that you look forward to in the coming year.